From Mustangs to Broncos to Ford GTs, the Blue Oval performance world is both broad and strong. Hi there, I'm Rick Jabrul. Welcome to our Top 10 series. Today we're looking at the top 10 Ford sales from the Barrett-Jackson Collector Car Auction in Las Vegas. You know, the Ford world has tons of performance, but it's not just on the track or on the street. There's plenty of off-road performance as well, and our top 10 will reflect that. But we're going to start, we're going to go back to 1966. In this case, it's a GT350 inspired Mustang that sold for $150,700.
Well, we got some Shelby stripes here, and Shelby snake on the interior headrest, but this emulates a GT350, which of course it is not. We will have at least one coming up in the auction either later tonight or tomorrow.
Yeah, under the hood we see some interesting things. Chrome plating on the firewall and shock tower brace, which is not factory. It's kind of nice. This is the Monte Carlo ball, which was used by Shelby and also is sold over the counter by Ford. And it helps to stiffen and triangulate the suspension hard points to, well, reduce the amount of flex and give slightly better handling. But these are pretty flexible cars in stock trim.
That bar got its name when it was applied. Whoa, $100,000. That bar got its name when it was applied to the Monte Carlo Rally Falcons that Ford ran in France in '64.
We are at $100,000 for this 2+2 1966 Mustang Fastback. Wow, we're still going. We're at $115,000.
I get it. It's got a ton of eyeball.
Well, according to the consignor, for example, this ivy green is the color it's supposed to be. It's been redone, but it's the color it was born with. The ivy gold trim, that's on the body tag as well.
Sold for $137,000.
And that is the new #1 seller of day 2 here at Barrett-Jackson, $137,000 for a 1966 Ford Mustang Custom 2+2. It doesn't matter whether they're stock or custom, Broncos are bringing big bucks as they cross the auction block at Barrett-Jackson. And number 9 on our list, well, it's no exception. In this case, it's a 1977 Ford Bronco, beautifully customized. It's got a modern Coyote V8 engine under the hood. Final price when this one sold, $165,000.
Lot 764 is a customized 77 Ford Bronco.
Well, this one has been customized. Again, this one has been cut, but something kind of nice is the wheel openings are not add-on flares, but they're nicely integrated and molded into the body. A refreshing touch. Under the hood on this one, a 5-liter Coyote with about 450 horsepower. So that's a lot of engine for something with the Statue of Liberty's center of gravity. Pretty tall.
Interesting note on the car card, according to the consignor, if you look up at the very front of the car, the bumper looks a little different than it should because this is actually taken off of a 1967 Camaro. Obviously the ends are different, but the bumper itself, they say, comes from a 67 Camaro, and the bumper in the back is from a 67 as well.
Yeah, it's pretty. This is the final year, 1977, for the first generation Bronco. It would return in '78, much larger and, well, more refined. And for the first time, air conditioning would be an option. But here, we absolutely do have air conditioning, aftermarket stuff that has been added into the dashboard and onto the top of that Coyote 5.0.
Rick, on those bumpers, some would call that sacrilege. I'd call it just part of the hot rodder's art to do something unexpected like that. And the bidders appreciated that one all the way up to $150,000.
Okay, we're going to jump from Broncos to Mustangs. In this case, number 8 belongs to the lady in gray, an Eleanor Tribute Edition, a 1968 Ford Mustang, beautifully customized, just like the movie car. Final price, $170,500. Staying in the Mustang world, a 1968 Eleanor Tribute Edition.
Well, we go to the 5th digit of the VIN. We see the letter C. So this was born a 289 two-barrel, but that was a long time ago. There's a 408 Windsor under the hood now, which is supercharged with a Vortec blower, which is centrifugal.
You know, the original movie, Gone in 60 Seconds, stuntman, director, driver Toby Halicki made that movie on a very, very thin budget. In fact, probably for less than it cost to build this car. And I don't think even he could have imagined the staying power that the Eleanor Mustang has after several movie remakes and several attempts to replicate this car. Now the licensed versions are out there. Everybody loves Eleanor.
Might not have crushed it at the end of the movie.
I like how the rear bumper has been molded into the quarter panels and valance. It's no longer a separate part, painted all one color to match the body. And on the shifter ball is the Go Baby Go ball, which Nicolas Cage famously would hit when he needed an extra shot of power, courtesy of the nitrous oxide system.
Way it goes, $155,000 for that Eleanor Tribute 1968 Ford Mustang. Well, Nicolas Cage would have been in heaven if he'd been at the Barrett-Jackson collector car auction, because there were plenty of Eleanor Tributes, all beautifully done. From that 1968 we just saw, check out this 1967. Once again, beautifully done, licensed Eleanor recreation, and it sold for $176,000. We've got a 1967 Ford Mustang Eleanor Tribute Edition that has slightly more horsepower than that VW bus.
Well, indeed. This one has a 390 FE engine. FE, of course, is Ford/Edsel. Big block. I love the dual quads on this one. Aluminum intake manifold. I think that's a reproduction Shelby piece. That's pretty cool. It was born in A code, 289 4-barrel. But again, to have a proper Eleanor, you've got to have a big block under the hood.
Wine glass wheels, so named by the shape of the ribs around the spokes.
Now, the original producer of Gone in 60 Seconds way back when was H.B. Toby Halicki, and his widow, still very much alive and well, is in charge of licensing proper Eleanor Tributes, and this one has the proper tag, so it's a licensed vehicle.
By the way, according to the consignor, this car only has about 410 shakedown miles since it was built. But most importantly, they have a binder that has all of the receipts of the build. Everything that went into it is in a separate file folder.
Like the bottle in the trunk, we saw that Edelbrock nitrous oxide system. And by the way, typically nitrous oxide bottles are blue. You got them from Mike Thermos's NOS Systems. Well, Edelbrock entered the nitrous oxide game, probably around 2001 or so, and their bottles are silver to set them apart. There's also Barry Grant nitrous systems, which are yellow. But again, you see a silver bottle, you're looking at an Edelbrock kit.
Yeah, attached to the Go Baby Go button, as it's called. $160,000 for that Eleanor Tribute. So how do you top a pair of custom Eleanor recreations? Well, believe it or not, at the Barrett-Jackson auction in Las Vegas, you did it with a Bronco. Check this one out. It's a 1969, customized. Underneath that hood is a supercharged Coyote V8 engine. Final price on this one, $178,200.
Lot number 767. Changes have been made since the catalog. This is an updated description. 1969 Ford Bronco Custom SUV. First generation 4x4 was professionally built and completed in 2021 with absolutely no expense spared. It's been fitted with an extensive list of top-of-the-line equipment. Over 1,000 man-hours have been invested in the build. Here it is, ladies and gentlemen, 1969 Ford Bronco Custom SUV.
Now 70,160, 165, 165, 165,000 on it, 165, 500 to get down, 65 to get down, 165, not to get down, anybody else out there, 162, 165, 165, 165, 165,000 on it, and 500 to get down, 165 and a half. So for $162,000.
That was a great buy right there.
Working our way through the top 10 Ford sales of the Barrett-Jackson collector car auction from Las Vegas. And up until now, all the cars that we've worked our way through have been customs in the Ford world. But this one, oh, this is a beauty. And this is dead stock, perfectly restored. From 1969, it's a Boss 9, a 429, selling for $214,500 in all its beauty at Las Vegas.
A 69 Ford Mustang Boss 429.
Well, indeed, this is the homologation special. in order to run the Boss 429 Hemi Hunter in NASCAR. Well, Bill France said, hey, Ford, you got to make those things for the public too. So this engine almost went into Galaxies to homologate the engine, but instead he said, let's put this thing into a Mustang. And these are very wide engines, so the spring towers on these are specially scalloped only on Boss 429s. You can also tell these cars apart by the VIN has a Z in the 5th spot. This is a real car.
You want to talk about interesting lineage. The guy behind this particular car was Larry Shinoda. And Larry Shinoda is the same guy who was behind those Corvettes we just saw, those mid-year Corvettes. Back when he was at GM, he came over to Ford. The boss, of course, refers to Bunky Newton, who was the head of Ford at the time. And Larry Shinoda has his fingers on two really impressive cars from the 60s. The mid-year Corvettes, as well as the Boss 302 and the Boss 9s.
And speaking of migrating from company to company, so did Bunky Knudsen go from GM to Ford. Now, this is interesting. On the Boss 429 for 1969, dual exhaust, unendured, exiting underneath the rear balance, no chrome tips, nothing like that. And also a cross-flow muffler on 1969, only kind of restrictive for an engine and crazy package like this.
Yeah, Craig Jackson is telling everybody these cars normally sell for twice this price. The 69 has a body-colored hood scoop. The 70, all the hood scoops were black. The valve covers changed from magnesium to aluminum sometime along the production trail. The engine on these are dry decked. That means there is no one-piece cylinder head gasket between the head and the block. It's a whole bunch of individual O-rings, and if you get one placed wrong, you take off the head and you do it all over again.
So what's the difference between a Boss 302 and a Boss 429 besides the engine? It's this little vent right here. The 429 had it, the 302 did not.
Most desirable Ford muscle cars ever produced.
Like Craig and Steve, I don't understand the lack of hands in the air for this one. I anticipated a much higher sale price for this car.
If we look inside of that massive Boss 429 scoop, we'll see a horizontal flap. That is a manually controlled air door. There's a cable underneath the dash. You pull it or push it to let air in or out, or rain out on a wet day.
As we talked about before, it was a combination of this, the Mach 1, that ultimately was the demise of the Shelby Mustangs back in those days, because why'd you have to buy a Shelby if you could buy something else that was, well, a lot easier to get off the line? Now, this 429 was a little more expensive, but still, you didn't need the Shelby name attached to it.
All right, we bought $195.
I would say that is well bought at $195,000. For KK number 1404, a 69 Boss 9.
From a stock restoration, we're going back into the custom world. We've seen 1, 2 Eleanors. It's time for number 3. But in this case, well, let's call it Eleanor's evil twin, this Midnight Edition Eleanor Tribute. When it crossed the block, the final price was $220,000, meaning this was the number 4 sale of the auction for the Ford world.
Lot number 750, here comes a 1967 Ford Mustang Eleanor Tribute Edition. All new officially licensed Eleanor Tribute Edition, hand-built from the ground up in one of only 2 shops in the world licensed to build them. This is the Midnight Edition, got an all-new 408 cubic inch Ford small block with a Tremec 5-speed manual transmission. All kinds of extra goodies come with the car, including a framed Gone in 60 Seconds movie poster, autographs, and photos as well.
And 210,000 to get a 10 where. And 210,000 and 2 to get down 10 to get down 10 to get down 10,000 down over to get down to 10 and 210. Welcome to the team. And 210,000 and 2 to get down 10 to get down 10 to get out through. All done. And 210,000 and 2 to get down 10 to get down. Dan's in the lead. You want 10 and 210 and 210 and a half. Sold for $200,000. Dan in the skybox.
One of the things that Barrett-Jackson does so well is raise a lot of great money for really good causes. And our number 3 sale of the Barrett-Jackson Collector Car Auction in Las Vegas did exactly that. Check this out. It's a 2021 Ford Bronco 4-door Badlands Raiders Edition. The hammer price when it sold was $275,000. And the great thing is, all the money raised by the sale of this truck went to the Grant to Gift Autism Foundation and the Raiders Foundation. And it's number 3 on the auction.
Here it is, the long-awaited Bronco. Easily confused with the Bronco Sport, but I always go to the wheels. When you see 6 lugs, you're looking at the Bronco, 5 Bronco Sport.
This is the one everybody's been waiting for, and it's just now starting to creep into Ford dealerships, but as you just heard, they are sold out. What a great opportunity to get a wonderful vehicle for a great cause.
Power comes from Ford's 2.7-liter EcoBoost, and of course EcoBoost means compound turbocharging. The engine sounds small, but don't be fooled, these make plenty of power.
This one has the factory Sasquatch package with 35-inch tires on 17-inch wheels, Bilstein shocks, and high-clearance fender flares.
Check right to the 501c3s. You do not pay a buy fee. We don't make anything off of this. This is all for the charities. Come on.
50, 75, and $275,000. 275 is bid, and $300,000. And everybody through. Down at 300 and 300,000. You say it or no? And $300,000 and a half. Sold for $275,000. Shane.
$275,000, and as Craig just said, every penny will go to Granta Gift Autism Foundation and the Raiders Foundation. Almost time for the #1 Ford sale of the Barrett-Jackson Collector Car Auction from Las Vegas, but first we got to hit the runner-up, and this was no slouch, I can tell you that. Sometimes you get the perfect combination of the right car, also with some very special ownership, special history behind it. That's exactly what you had right here. I mean, this is a 1966 Ford Mustang. It's a GT. It's a K-code. That's worth a lot of money, but when you add in the fact that this car was owned by Henry Ford II. The Deuce, well, that just made it shoot right off the charts. A record-setting price for this car, the #2 Ford sale of the auction, $330,000.
Brake built specially for Henry Ford to drive at Le Mans during the 24-hour race weekend. Special paint, special tan leather. Prototype bucket seats from what would end up on the '67 Cougar. A Ford Design Center prototype for styling, HF2 logos prominently displayed, and then loaded with options. One of one.
You know, the Deuce, or Henry Ford II, was not fooling around. He had this based on a K car, 271 solid lifter, 289. Good stuff.
So if you look inside and you look at these seats, and they don't look quite Mustang the way you would expect, that's because these are from a 1967 Cougar. It was a little bit of a, well, moving forward kind of style that they have.
Well, being, of course, Henry Ford II, he had access to pre-production prototype parts, and I'm going to bet you these are just that, pre-production parts that were under evaluation for future Cougars. And he says, I'll take those, put them in the car. Here we have them.
All right, another little cool thing. When the car finally rolls to a stop, we're going to show you the center of the steering wheel. There you see it. It says HF2, Henry Ford II.
Now, I know the fellow who owns the Le Mans winning Ford GT from 1966, and wouldn't this look great parked in his collection alongside it? Perhaps he is one of the multiple phone bidders on this car as we cross $200,000.
And the car's actually spent the bulk of its life in France. It's only come to the United States fairly recently.
Yes.
230.
Four-speed manual transmission. a one-off dashboard with a Shelby-esque instrument pod, but again, that is not something that's out of a Shelby Mustang. That was made by Ford Special Department for this car.
Really, this is a truly unique and interesting piece of automotive history. Full records behind it. We know exactly why it was built, where it was built, what it was used for, where it's been for the bulk of its life, and now it's here at Barrett-Jackson. I think it's a very interesting car.
That 66 Le Mans winner was reportedly restored at a cost of about 100 times what this car is bid. I really think they ought to be a pair. They're the same color after all, Raven Black.
Of course, Henry Ford II was the eldest grandson of Henry Ford. Henry II's father was Edsel Ford. Henry II was president of Ford between 1945 and 1960, then the CEO through 1979.
So, $300,000 sends Henry Ford II 66 Ford Mustang convertible to its new home.
So how do you top a record-setting price for a 1966 Ford Mustang convertible owned by Henry Ford II? Well, up until now, we've been talking about collector cars from the past. Our #1 Ford sale from Las Vegas, well, that was something much more modern. Check this out, a 2019 Ford GT. What is essentially a race car that you can drive on the street. And when it finally sold, the price over $1 million, $1,023,000, making it the #1 Ford sale of the auction.
Here is a 2019 Ford GT outfitted with carbon fiber wheels, carbon fiber exterior package, limited in options and in miles. 21, that's all it has.
Well, for the longest time, obviously, we did not see these come to auction because Ford had a requirement. If you were buying one, you had to hold on to it for 2 years. A few of them managed to leak out, but for the most part, well, that was held, that cap. Now we've reached the point that they can be sold, and we're seeing more and more come to auction.
So the two things that raise the number on these are low miles, which this has, and a high option count or heritage edition, which this one doesn't necessarily have, but it has some very valuable options like those carbon fiber wheels.
Speaking of exotic materials, the windshields on these are made of Gorilla Glass, which is the same stuff on your smartphone. No wonder Gorilla Glass is chemically strengthened glass dipped in hot potassium, salt bath, and they're not indestructible, but they're pretty tough.
The original Ford GT, purely a race car designed to race at Le Mans. Of course, we all know the story about how they ultimately won 4 times in a row. Then they had the second generation Ford GT, which really wasn't a race car. A few people raced them, but not significantly. And then we've come out with the third GT, which won at Le Mans.
Yeah, these street cars go down the same assembly line as the race cars, and only after the tub is all glued together with its integral roll cage does it veer off in one direction to go to the track or one direction to be finished for the street. These are incredible to drive. I can't describe how much fun these are to drive.
Once again, ultimately, it's just a race car in street trim.
You know, got to keep in mind, these are astonishing times we're living in, because back in the 60s, the original GT40, Ford did not even dream of selling those to the public. Yeah, a couple street cars came out, but Ford has flipped the script with the modern GTs, both generations. These are street cars, and they're sold for you and me to drive every day, any way we want. It's an amazing time to be a car enthusiast.
This sale includes a 32-foot Intech trailer with the Rail Rider loading system, and that's about a $50,000 value. Or more.
I love how the V6 engine plays peekaboo underneath, again, the Gorilla Glass. And that's patented by Dow Corning, the makers of that glass.
$935,000 is the hammer price.
Well, that'll do it for our top 10 Ford sales from the Las Vegas Barrett-Jackson Collector Car Auction. Remember, if you want to see more of our top 10 series, go right over there. You can like us, you can subscribe, you can do all that stuff. Make sure you watch all of the great killer automotive programming right here from Barrett-Jackson. I'm Rick DeBrule. Thanks for joining us.